come out of it on the other side of it feeling stronger, feeling like you have more control over who you are and what you are and your story, and making sure that all of these things that happened to you in the past, they're not going to happen to you right now. So I think that all of the things that all of us have gone through, I've gone through painful things. Boyce has gone through painful things. All of us have gone through painful things in our life. And the goal going forward is to first come up with a system to cope with the stress in your life, acknowledge what's gone on with you, tackle a lot of that stuff head on. And then you have to decide who you want to be, the type of person you want to be, the conviction you want to have in your body, and play that out going forward. And I just think that, and sometimes you need to have boundaries with people in your life. You need to establish new boundaries because some of the old boundaries may not be working for you. So I just think what I'd like for all of us to feel after session 4 is to just feel empowered and renewed and inspired.
Well, I think that's a good point. I think that I'm gonna tell you what, I have been really on a journey to deal with stress. I have a stressful life. So, and also I'm getting older. So I've really been thinking a lot about trying to manage stress and minimize stress. And I found that, a lot of times sort of that awareness allows you to know what's bothering you, how to get away from it. And then even when I was sitting with a massage therapist today, she was working on different parts of my legs and ankles, and she studied this Chinese therapy medicine. I haven't talked to you about that yet, babe, but she was literally doing something with my toes, and she said, I feel that you have stress in your chest or something. Like, it was real weird, like all these crazy connections. And she said that your body carries all that with it, right? And so I think that just having that awareness, one of the best benefits I've had from having a therapist, not just as a great therapist as a wife, but also I have a therapist that I see. And I want to be open about that because I don't want you to ever think therapy is for crazy people. Therapy is for people that want to be healthy. Therapy is for people that want to be better. Therapy is for people that want to have awareness. Therapy is for people who want to just be good people, and happy people, right? Therapy is for people that want to improve. Therapy is not for people who are screwed up and crazy and weird. At that point, maybe you need more than therapy, So when I talk to my therapist, the best thing that I've gained from that experience is learning ways to just manage stress, to process trauma, to manage relationships, because if you are triggered and traumatized and stressed, you're not going to be a good person to have a relationship with. And also, Alicia, I don't know if you mentioned this or not, but on that ACEs test that we gave you guys earlier, if your score is really high, that means you're likely to die young. Like, that stuff literally kills you. Like, financial stress kills you. Racism kills you. Racism mixed with financial stress, they're connected. A lot of our racial microaggressions that stress us out and kill us are directly linked to our financial situation. Why? Well, because the reason you're going to work for that SOB who hates your black butt is because you need the money, right? So why do you need the money? Well, because nobody left you an inheritance. Why do you need the money? Well, because you don't own any assets, because that wasn't part of your family culture. Why do you need the money? Well, because somebody told you to go to college and pick up $100,000 in student loans that you can never repay. So now you're being forced to sort of endure a lot of financial stress, which can create this toxic environment filled with racial microaggressions that can drive you into the ground and eventually kill you. So what I want you guys to do is gain an awareness of all that. And then at that point, come up with solutions. Number one, find a way out of that environment. Well, how do you get out? Well, maybe that means learning how to start your own business. Maybe that means, investing the little extra money you have. Maybe that means joining groups with other people that are going through the same thing as you, like the Black Wealth Bootcamp. That's one of the first things we created, was to bring together people that want to get off the corporate plantation to escape together. Just like runaway slaves, they could escape more easily as a group, because as a group, they could follow the North Star and get to where they had to go. As an individual, it's a little bit tougher to do. Also, though, until that time, being able to do the work internally for two reasons. One, so that when you're faced with the toxicity and the stress, you can process in a way that doesn't kill you. Number two, you can process what's around you in a way that's going to just make you a better person to be around, so you can form the kind of healthy relationships that can improve your economic situation, so that, as a stressed out Black man who's going through hell every day, and I meet a great woman who wants to support me and help me to get off the plantation, but I don't want to ruin that relationship because I'm showing up unhealthy and unprocessed in a proper way. Because I don't know how to treat her, because I'm dealing with so many things internally. So you got to do the work. You got to do the work. I do the work with my therapist because I want to have a good relationship with you. Because I tell you, I kid you all not, when you deal with as many people as I deal with, I have about 1.5 million followers on the internet. Not all of them are wonderful people. There's stuff that happens all the time that could easily trigger me if I didn't have some coping mechanism to process it in an appropriate way. And even with all of that, it's still a battle. Okay. So ultimately, I encourage you to do the same thing, or to consider it. And I think that will make a difference. Now, I see another question. Put your question.
No, I want to comment. Can I comment on what you just said? And let me tell you the secret to stress. What do you think I'm going to say, boy? The secret to stress is that none of it is real. It is all in your head. And anything that you can learn about this masterclass, when you leave this masterclass, what I'm going to teach you next week is how to never experience stress another day of your life. Because I don't know if we're clear on this, but having a relaxed body is really the key to not experiencing stress anymore. Who's squeezing the muscles in your body when you get all tense and you're all worried about money or your relationships or any of that? It's not your spouse squeezing the muscles in your body. It's not how much money you got in a banking account that squeezes the muscles in your body that makes you all tense. Your job isn't doing it. Your children's not doing it. Your mama's not doing it. Your dad's not doing it. Hell, not even white people are doing it. Not politicians. You are squeezing the muscles in your body. It's not enjoyable. And you can stop it, because everything that you think is stressing you out, it's connected to a painful memory in the past. You don't have to experience stress in your life. You have the power over these situations. You can always come back to your own power. And if you don't have control over your emotions, which we talked about today, when you perceive threats, and if you scored high on the ACEs score, you're going to perceive things that are very threatening, whether it's real or not. And we all know that a lot of it is not real. Most of the time, nothing is really threatening you. It's just a reminder, it's the memory of this situation that's stressing you out. And so it's going to take a lot of discipline to incorporate some of the things that we're going to talk about next session. Especially if you're a trauma survivor, you need to have the discipline not to have pain in your life. So
I think that's a good point. I remember you were talking about if you wanted to discuss this a little bit, the parasympathetic nervous system, and how when that gets overly activated and you're always in a state of, if I'm incorrect, fight or flight, and how that can affect how you respond to things around you. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Oh yeah, I mean, everything's threatening because you have to play these video games. Your parasympathetic nervous system is always on guard. It's dominant in your life. And so there is no relaxing. And I don't know, I mean, people who go on these shooting rampages and they start asking questions and they're always like addicted to these gaming and stuff like that. So yeah, for sure, it has an impact. You're not able, it's just dominant in your life, this parasympathetic, this fight, flight, sort of thing that you have to have on board in order to play these video games. That's why a lot of people who are ex-military, they love those Call of Duty, they play it all the time. And it is a problem.
Are you making fun of me again?
Well, you're not in part of the military, but I'm not making fun of you.
I'm not part of the military, but I do.
I love the fact that you play video games.
A lot of the guys when I do play Call of Duty, which I started doing because I was challenging myself to find something to do other than what I normally do. I was trying to see if, I could learn a new skill. And, but I found a lot of guys that were my age who do play video games who are ex-military. So to your point, you're probably right about that.
Okay. Any questions? Any other questions?
I think there should be questions in the Q&A section. If you have a question, put it in the Q&A section. See, Vince says I'm a great gamer. I think I'm pretty good. Let's see here. Okay, here, Willetta is asking, Dr. Boyce, how are you dealing with anxiety with taking flight lessons or anything new? You know, that's a funny one, because I don't know if me and my wife are on the same page with the flight lessons, but she does support me, and I have and there is anxiety. The way I deal with the anxiety from flying is I take it very seriously. I know that it's important for me to have the patience and learn all the rules and regulations. You know, as I become a pilot, you can't mess around with that. You know, you have to understand things like wind and weather and stuff like that. And that's really something that, so that's the first thing. I just take it seriously, make sure I train myself well. When I do get a plane, I'm gonna actually hire another pilot to fly with me wherever I go. That way, that'll hopefully help my wife feel safer in terms of me going up in the air. Thirdly, you just do it. You know, it's a trade-off. It's like I accept the risk, you know, and I believe that you live once, and I'm going to live my life to the fullest, you know, and whatever that means, that's what it is. And so when I get that fear, I just confront it and feel the fear and do it anyway. You know, for different people, you have different responses, and you know, if the fear cripples you, then maybe you should do something else. But I'm not a big believer in making decisions based on fear, because anytime I've made decisions based on fear in my life, it was almost always the wrong decision. You know, so just keep that in mind as you make your choices. Vince says, Dr. Alicia, can we do a class on big or major financial purchases? Didn't you say you were what were you gonna cover? What was it you gonna cover next week again?
I was gonna, shopping addiction. So maybe
I think that can be fit under shopping addiction.
That's a beautiful question. I will put that into that shopping addiction. I'll make a note to do that, about making big purchases and how trauma can be related to that. That's interesting, because it has to do with your impulse control. And it's so interesting because, you know, a lot of people who were abused, you know, sometimes they have parents who had poor impulse control, and just like you say something they don't like and boom, they slap you in the face, you know, things that happen, you know, how they deal with stuff. You know, it's poor impulse control among some of the adults, you know, in your life who was caring for you. So it doesn't have to necessarily be your parents. It could be, you know, just anybody, just poor impulse control. And so that wasn't modeled to you. Being able to know when to take a time out, how to think things through, how to sit and talk to someone and say, you know, what you did is unacceptable, you know, giving people consequences and talking to them about what's going on, just all the different things that you should do with other people when they do and say things that you don't like. You should just slap somebody. A lot of people in jail with poor impulse control. I really do think that a better therapeutic model, and I know this is the social work in me, you know, people who are in prison, who score a 10 on the ACEs scale, like, we need to put them someplace else. We need to really give them like the help and the treatment, because this was put on an innocent child growing up. And if they don't have the means to kind of deal with it, you know, you end up making some of these decisions. But anyway, that's the fantasy social work world in me.
No, I think I have that same fantasy. I mean, I think that and just prison itself, that if you're not high on the trauma scale when you get there, you're going to be high by the time you leave. You know, prison is a traumatic place to begin with. And I think that a deeper exploration of trauma would lead us to a more enlightened understanding of exactly what happens to us and why. And I know that just from a male perspective, I know that sometimes culture, and I think for women, they have to deal with the same thing. Sometimes culture can be a liability, because sometimes if you are a person, a man or a woman, let's say you exercise impulse control. Like, you're a guy who goes to the club and somebody steps on your toe, and you're not going to go beat him up or shoot him because you're thinking about, oh, I don't want to go to jail, whatever. Well, there are some guys out there that might call you a punk. You know, like, or, oh, that guy grabbed your girlfriend's butt, you should have punched him out. But you're thinking about, like, I don't want to go to jail.
Calling you that? Someone's calling you that?
Well, it's not that people call you a punk. It's what people define as the appropriate response. Like, you hear people say, like, oh shoot, if that happened to me, I have to go. I'm going to jail. I'm going to jail. And it's like, so you get that pressure to respond in a way that's going to put you in a really bad situation, as opposed to resolving the conflict. People pressure you to make you feel like you have to settle it in a violent way, and I've seen that with men and women in our community. Conflict resolution isn't exactly seen as, as the trendiest thing to do all the time. And I've seen men and women, like when you see those world star videos of 20-something-year-old girls
Oh
fighting
my
each other on
goodness.
the bus, punching each other out, and one of them's pregnant and they kicking the baby, and all kinds of ridiculous stuff. And it's like you're not even encouraged to step back and say, wait a minute, if I punch this pregnant lady in the face because she took my boyfriend, we're all going to jail.
Well,
You
you're
know,
not gonna, yeah, you're not gonna be able to do that anyway if your parasympathetic nervous system is online, because you
okay.
can't think rationally when you're in this fight or flight. When you perceive threat coming your way, it's very difficult to behave rationally because you think you're gonna be dead. It's a survival thing. You really feel threatened, like your life is like this person is attacking you. Whether it's perceived. It's, a lot of it is not real. A lot of it is not real. A lot of it is just perceived, but you really see that this person is attacking you, and here's the thing. The thing with trauma is that there is nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong. A person who is reacting because they score whatever on the ACEs scale, that's the way you're supposed to behave, considering the things that have happened to you. Your body has the ability to adapt to its surroundings so that you can survive. So these are survival mechanisms as a response to threat. So there's nothing wrong with somebody. I want to know right now, it doesn't matter what your ACEs score is. It doesn't matter how traumatized you were. There is nothing wrong with anybody. There's nothing wrong with you. If you are 1 on the ACEs score, if you are a 9 or a 7 or a 5, there's nothing wrong with you, because what was wrong was what happened to you. And your response to that is an appropriate response. Your body is hardwired for you to survive, and that's your survival mechanism. And I think it should be seen in that way. It shouldn't be seen necessarily as pathological. It should be seen as a cry for help, that your body is responding in this way and that something happened to you that shouldn't have happened to you. And that's how we need to look at trauma and how we respond to it. Yes.
Okay. I agree with you in the sense that if I feel threatened, maybe I react in a violent way because I'm scared.
Yes.
I'm not talking so much just about that. I'm talking about scenarios that I have personally been in where, your rational reaction was to think about the consequences of your choices. And there was pressure from people from the world, just from culture, that tells you that the best way to respond to that is to punch somebody. Like, let's say you're in the grocery store and a man walks up and just hits you in the face. A lot of people say, okay, my goal would be like, I'm going to punch him out too. Like, you ain't going to punk me, Whereas there are some cultures where they would just get punched and be like, whoa, I'm calling the police on you. I think I've seen a lot of Black male scenarios and Black women, and maybe it's not, I'm sure maybe other cultures might do the same thing, but I've seen a lot of people who would be like, you didn't hit him back. Oh, if somebody hit me, oh, I would have knocked him out. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Give me a yes or you know what I'm talking about. Like, I've seen that part, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about, like I'm reacting because I feel threatened and my parasympathetic nervous system's online and I'm reacting because of this a
That's
threat.
what's happening.
I'm talking about getting, pressured into doing things because you're worried about, people thinking you're a punk, or you're with a girl and the girl's like, you didn't hit him back. Like, he grabbed my booty. You should have knocked him out. Right. So what I'm saying is, like, it takes a lot of confidence to walk away from bad culture sometimes. Just like when I got on my knees and proposed to you, and my emotions flowed out. I didn't plan to cry, but I did. And I had a few men, not the majority, but a few men who said, "Oh, that's a simp." Right? It took a lot of my confidence as a man to ignore that. Right? But the fact that we have a culture that where there's some component of that culture, this whole manosphere that was developing, where they really think that you're a simp because you showed genuine love for a Black woman, is very disturbing, because I don't know if other cultures would have had those same issues. I think if I was a Japanese man on my knee proposing to my wife and talking about how much I loved her, I can't see groups of Japanese men, thousands of them, getting together and saying, "Oh, you're a simp," right? And I just think, what if I was less confident? What if I was a person? What if I was younger and more worried about what people thought, or wasn't sure if that was the right thing to do? Well, I might go along and say, no, I was just, I was just pretending, right? So I really just think in general. In fact, it reminds me, there was an episode like that, or there's a scene of that in Grease, in the movie Grease, where John Travolta's character was showing that he was with a motorcycle gang. She was the head of the cheerleading team, and he liked her, but then his friends were making fun of him for liking the girl. So then he started treating her like crap so that his friends wouldn't think he was a punk, right? So what I'm saying in general is, I think that when you're talking about very serious decisions, conflict resolution, or doing what's best for you, a good sense of self and knowledge of self and self-confidence is really important, so you can deviate and walk away from the bad culture. Now, it looks like my wife disappeared. Okay, so she stepped out. So what I'm going to do, since my wife has...
No, wait. I want to say something to that. Can I say something to that? Or yeah, I don't know what the schedule's like. But yeah, that happened to me, Boyce. One time I was on the north side of Chicago, and I was getting money out of the ATM in a gas station. Who does that? Now that I think about it, it was like, why was I at a gas station getting money out of ATM? But anyway, I was doing that right off of Howard Street, like right in Evanston. But anyway, so I'm up there, and this creepy guy came behind. By the way, I'm not even 30 years old. I may have been like 26 years old when I'm getting money out of the ATM. I ain't had no money back then. So every little money I got out that ATM, I had to sit and think about how much money was in my checking account. Anyway, so I get the little money out, and this creep comes behind me and tries to like come behind me and take my money. Boyce, I have never, okay, self-disclosure, my ACEs score is a 1, okay? Yeah, nothing, I ain't never been punched, I've never been hit by anybody. Like, I don't even fight. I don't fight at all, right? So this man came and tried to attack me and get my money, Boyce. I went ballistic. And I had no idea that this evil little person was lurking inside of me, Boyce. I turned around, I was like, and I swear to God, I could have killed this man if I hadn't like been like, whoa. But I was like coming after him, and he was scared, and he like kind of was like, and he just kind of walked off and scurried off real fast. And I almost wanted to run behind, like I almost wanted to run behind him and like kick him or something and push him. I had no idea that side of me was even in me. Anyway, I just had to share that story because there's nothing in my past. I mean, my parents were like, they were pacifists. They were kind of like, I don't know, I don't want to call them hippies, but they were a little kind of, I don't know. They were like peace. They were part of the peace culture, the Black version of that, not so they were just part of that. So they just didn't instill any of that stuff in me. I was kind of like granola. I was a granola grow up girl, growing up, everything was pretty peaceful and meditative and all of that. But it was just weird what came out of me. So you never know what somebody do. Your back's against the wall. Anyway, I had to share that.
So what would you say are some like final takeaways? Because we've been here a couple hours now. So and by the way, if you go to my website, boycewatkins.com, at the top, there's that link. If you click on that link, you can get access to all the slides, all the recordings, all the workbooks, everything we put together for financial therapy. And just to remind everybody, this is just one of many things I want to do with the Black Financial Therapy Department we created in the Black Business School. And it's the first one that I've ever seen anywhere on earth. And the goal is to bring together financial experts with leading therapists in the Black community to help us really understand, for those of you that want to grow, for those of you that want to evolve, to understand what the psychological barriers might be that can keep you from building wealth across generations. Okay, so if you go to boycewatkins.com, the link is right there at the top. You can get access to everything. And also what I'll do is I'll stay in close contact with all of you to let you know when we have another session. And also if you want to see Dr. Alicia directly, her website, I'll give it to you. You can write it down. It's coachingwithdralicia.com. That's coachingwithdralicia.com. dralicia.com. So I didn't know if Dr. Alicia, okay, so my wife just stepped out again right when I was about to ask her a question. So what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and shut down the session and say, I hope you guys have a good night, and I hope that this was helpful to you. And I want to encourage you to keep growing, keep building, keep developing, keep evolving. And that is how you will overcome your challenges. So she keeps coming back in. So all
I'm
right. So
sorry.
just say goodbye. Sorry. So